The memory cuts deeper than any knife, even now at 73, my hands trembling not from age but from the weight of a past that refuses to fade. My voice is softer these days, worn by years of silence, but the scars, inside and out, weep when the nights grow long, whispering of a pain so raw it still chokes me. What happened to me as a girl broke me, reshaped me, and led me to a miracle I never dared hope for. It's a story of anguish, of revenge that burns slow and cold, and of a light that found me when I thought I'd lost everything. I've never told it fully, not like this, my heart laid bare, but it's time. Before I begin, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to know where this story finds you. I was 16, living in a crumbling two-story house on the edge of an Ohio cornfield, in a town where secrets festered behind drawn curtains and polite smiles. Our home smelled of dust, mildew, and my father's whiskey, the walls so thin they carried every shout, every sob, every creak of the floorboards when someone moved in the dark. My brother, Eddie, was 18, broad-shouldered, with a smile that charmed the neighbors, the preacher, the whole damn town. To them, he was the golden boy, the one who'd carry groceries for old ladies, toss a football with the kids, and tip his cap at church. But to me, he was a shadow, a monster who haunted my nightmares long before I knew what to call him. It started when I was 12, small things at first, his hand brushing my arm too long, his eyes lingering when I changed, a smirk that made my skin crawl. By 14, it wasn't just looks. He'd corner me in the basement, the attic, my bedroom when the house was quiet, his voice low and cruel, his hands where they didn't belong. "Don't tell," he'd hiss, his breath hot against my ear. "No one will believe you." And I didn't. Fear choked me, shame burned me, and I believed I'd done something to deserve it, that I was the stain on our family's name. My father was no safe harbor. A factory worker with fists like sledgehammers and a temper that flared like gasoline, he'd come home reeking of liquor, his eyes bloodshot, looking for any excuse to unleash his rage. My mother, God rest her broken soul, was a ghost in her own life, her eyes dull, her hands always busy with dishes or laundry to avoid his wrath. She saw the bruises on my arms, the way I flinched when Eddie passed too close, but she'd look away, her silence louder than any scream. I don't hate her now. I see the cage she was trapped in, her own bruises hidden under long sleeves, but back then, her quiet felt like betrayal, another wound in a body already bleeding. At 16, I was pregnant. The truth crept up slow, a sickening weight in my gut. I hid the nausea, the swelling, the terror, for as long as I could, wearing loose dresses, avoiding mirrors. I didn't want to believe it, couldn't face what it meant. I told Eddie one night, my voice trembling, hoping, foolishly, desperately, that he'd feel some shred of guilt, some spark of humanity. He laughed, a cold, sharp sound that cut deeper than any blow. "You're on your own, little sister," he said, his eyes gleaming with something crueler than indifference. I cried myself to sleep, my hands cradling my stomach, feeling a life I didn't choose but already loved with a fierceness that scared me, a love that felt like defiance against the darkness. I couldn't hide it forever. My father noticed my tightening dresses, the way I moved slower, more careful, protecting what was inside me. One night, he grabbed my arm, his grip bruising, his face twisted with disgust. "Who did this?" he roared, his voice shaking the walls. I couldn't say Eddie's name, fear locked my throat, shame burned my tongue, but my silence was enough. He saw a daughter who'd shamed him, disgraced the family name. His belt came off, and the beating that followed was merciless, his fists falling like thunder, my screams swallowed by the walls. I curled on the kitchen floor, my arms shielding my belly, my mother's shadow in the doorway, her hands twisting her apron, her eyes empty as she watched. "You're no daughter of mine," he spat, his voice thick with whiskey and rage. I thought I'd lose the baby that night, my body bruised and bleeding, my heart shattered. I prayed, my whispers desperate, to a God I wasn't sure existed, begging for the life inside me to hold on. Morning came, and I was still breathing, still carrying her. My body ached, my face swollen, but something in me snapped, not broke, but snapped, like a chain stretched too far. I wasn't staying in that house, not with Eddie's cruelty, not with my father's fists, not with my mother's silence. I packed a bag, some clothes, a faded photo of my mother from before she faded, $23 from babysitting, and slipped out before dawn, the cornfields whispering as I left. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to save my child, to give her a chance I never had. I ended up at a women's shelter 2 towns over, a place I'd heard about from a school counselor who'd seen my bruises and slipped me a pamphlet, her eyes kind but helpless. Miss Clara ran the shelter, a woman with gray braids and eyes that held both steel and warmth, like she'd seen every kind of pain and still believed in hope. She took me in without questions, gave me a bed, a hot meal, and a doctor's visit. The baby was okay, the doctor said, a miracle after the beating I'd taken. I cried then, not from pain but from relief, my hands on my belly, feeling her kick, a tiny heartbeat defying the darkness. Miss Clara became my anchor, my mother in ways mine never could be. She taught me to knit, her hands guiding mine, to budget, to believe I was worth more than the shame I carried. At night, she'd sit with me, her voice soft, telling stories of women who'd survived worse, who'd found light on the other side. "You're stronger than you know, child," she'd say, and I clung to those words, sewing them into my heart. My daughter, Lily, was born in that shelter, a tiny miracle with eyes that held the stars, her cries the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. I named her for the wild lilies by the cornfields, stubborn and beautiful despite the odds. Holding her, I felt a love so fierce it burned away my fear, a love that made me vow she'd never know the pain I had. I stayed at the shelter for a year, working as a cleaner, saving every penny, my heart full of Lily's laughter. Miss Clara helped me get a job at a diner, then an apartment, a 1-bedroom with peeling paint but a window that caught the morning light. It was small, but it was ours, a sanctuary built from the ashes of my past. But the past doesn't stay buried. Eddie and my father were still out there, living like nothing had happened. Eddie was at the factory, charming the town, his smile a mask that hid his cruelty. My father drank himself deeper into his darkness, his anger a storm that never calmed. I heard through a cousin, the only family who kept in touch, that they'd told people I'd run off with some boy, a lie that painted me as the shame while they walked free. It burned, a slow fire in my chest, but I focused on Lily, on her first words, her first steps, her questions about the world. I never told her about Eddie, about the house that broke me. I wanted her to grow up untouched by that shadow, her heart free to bloom. When Lily was 15, my cousin called again. My father was dying, liver failure from the whiskey, and he wanted to see me. I didn't want to go, but something in me needed to face him, to close that door before it swallowed me whole. I went back to that sagging house, Lily waiting in the car, her music loud through her earbuds, unaware of the ghosts I was facing. My father was a husk, his skin yellow, his hands shaking as he reached for me. "I'm sorry," he croaked, tears in his eyes, his voice weak. I wanted to believe him, to feel something soft, but the scars on my body, on my soul, screamed louder. "You beat me," I said, my voice steady, though my heart ached with the weight of it. "You let Eddie destroy me, and you blamed me." He sobbed, his hands clutching the blanket, but I felt nothing but the echo of my own pain. I walked out, leaving him to his regret, my heart heavy but unbroken. Eddie was there, too, in town, his hair graying but his smirk unchanged. I saw him at the gas station, filling his truck, and he looked at Lily through the car window. His eyes flickered with recognition, a knowing glint that made my blood freeze. He knew who she was, knew what he'd done. My heart pounded, but I didn't run. I wasn't that scared girl anymore. I'd built a life, a love, a strength he couldn't touch. But seeing him stirred something, a need not just to survive, but to make him pay, to rip away the mask he wore and show the world his truth. The miracle came then, or maybe it was revenge dressed as fate, a gift born from pain. I'd saved money, not just for Lily's college but for something I hadn't named until that moment, a reckoning. I hired a private investigator, a quiet man with tired eyes who knew how to unearth secrets. He found others, 3 women Eddie had hurt, their stories mirroring mine, their pain a wound that matched my own. There was Sarah, 15 when Eddie trapped her in a car, Maria, who'd worked with him at the factory, and Jen, who'd believed his lies until he turned on her. I reached out to them, my hands shaking as I wrote letters, then met them in a coffee shop far from town. We sat, for broken women, our stories spilling out between tears and coffee cups, our voices growing stronger with every word. We weren't alone anymore, and that was the first miracle, the strength we found in each other, the bond forged in shared pain. We built a case, not out of hate but out of a need for justice, for the truth to be louder than our silence. The investigator dug up evidence, hospital records from my shelter days, old police reports from Sarah and Maria, a recorded call where Eddie, drunk and careless, admitted to Jen what he'd done to me. We took it to a lawyer, a woman with fire in her eyes and a voice that carried our pain like it was her own. The process was slow, agonizing, each court date a reopening of wounds, a reliving of nightmares. We sat together in that courtroom, our hands clasped, our hearts pounding, as Eddie's golden boy mask was stripped away. The town watched, stunned, as the truth came out, his crimes, his lies, the pain he'd inflicted on us all. He was arrested, charged with multiple counts of assault, sentenced to 15 years. I hope every day in that cell feels like the hell he made for us, every moment a reminder of the lives he tried to break. My father died before the trial, never knowing the full truth. I don't know if that was mercy or justice, but it left me hollow, a wound that never fully healed. Lily, now a woman, knows enough, not the details, but the strength it took to fight, to rise, to give her a life free of that darkness. She's my miracle, the light born from the deepest shadows, the reason I kept breathing when I wanted to stop. I still carry the scars, physical and not, but they're part of me, like the lines on my face, the love in my heart for my daughter. I defined myself by the life I built, the women I helped, the truth I forced into the light. I'm not the girl who cowered in that house. I'm the woman who fought back, who turned pain into power. Thank you for listening to my story. It's raw, it's true, and it's mine, carved from a heart that's known too much pain but found its way to hope. If it broke your heart or lit a fire in you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs it. Drop a comment with your city, I'd love to know where you are. And if you've ever been hurt, know this, you're not your pain. You're the miracle that rises from it, stronger than you ever dreamed.